So before we get started with today's lesson, I just wanted us to review what we've learned so far with informational text, which also means nonfiction text. So informational text, such as The Fantastic Undersea Life of Jacques Cousteau, we learned how to use chronological order to organize information, right? The book started from the beginning of his life to the end. Now, we also learned in other informational texts, such as Starry Messenger, that sometimes we use cause and effect structures to link ideas. For example, because Galileo went against the traditions of the church punished him. Also, through other informational texts, such as Moonshot, we learned that authors use special vocabulary terms to teach us different things. And finally, informational texts often include text features to support readers. So here is a picture of our text feature chart that we created from Module 2 when we read the book Shark Attack. And so you see here that some text features include illustrations and photographs, captions, text box, table of contents, glossary, and the index. And I just want to emphasize that illustrations can also be included in nonfiction text. That point being said, that leads us to my next review topic, which is that our new text, Coming to America by Betsy Maestro, is nonfiction. Okay, so even though you saw that there were illustrated pictures inside the text, that does not necessarily mean that the text is fiction. Also, another big hint or clue that told us that the book was nonfiction were the dates that were included throughout the text, as well as the historical facts. Okay, so what I also did is I created a vocabulary sheet. I used all the unknown words that those of you that completed your ELA classwork last week, I created a list of words that you've noted and I gave you the definition. So I'm going to just read it off now for you. Okay, an immigrant is a person who comes to a country to live there. Immigrate is to come to a country to live there. It's the verb form. Prosperity is the state of being successful, usually by making a lot of money, wealth, okay? Foreigner is a person who is from a country that is not your own. Norwegian is a person born, raised, or living in Norway. So like how we describe people who were born, raised, or living in Japan as Japanese, or people who are born, raised, living in America, American. Norwegian is just a term for people in Norway, or born, raised, living in Norway, which is a country in Europe. Transatlantic just means that going across the Atlantic Ocean. A voyage is a long journey to a distant or unknown place. We should know this word from Grandfather's Journey. Descendants is someone or people who is related to a person or group of people who lived in the past. Okay. The Netherlands is a country in Europe. Settlers are people or person who goes to live in a new place where usually there are few or no people. A community is a group of people who live in the same area, such as a city, town, or neighborhood, or a group of people who have the same interests, religion, or race. Nation is a large area of land that is controlled by its own government, and the Ice Age was a time in the distant past where a large part of the world was covered with ice. I want you to think of the cartoon, the movie as well, okay? All right, your do now or warm up today is going to be listening to an interview and answering the following question. What was it like to immigrate to America at the time of Ellis Island? Please make sure you click the link below in the instructions to lead you to the interview. All right, so once you click the link, the website should look like this. You need to scroll down until you see William Remembers the Storm, which is the heading. And then you click this button right here.
It's hard for people to understand today what it was.
Okay, and so the recording or audio clip of his interview, of William Griner's interview, will play. Then what I want you to do is answer that question, which is, what was it like to immigrate to America at the time of Ellis Island? And you can answer it in the perspective of William Griner. Okay? All right, so for the first part of today's classwork, we're going to be looking at the Statue of Liberty, because it was one of the first glimpses of the United States for immigrants when they were coming through Ellis Island. And I'm going to show you piece by piece the different parts of the Statue of Liberty. So for the first part I want you to notice is the pedestal, which raises the statue up to make it more easily visible to people far away. Okay, and it's also made of concrete and granite stones. Now, the whole statue with the pedestal is 151 feet and 1 inch tall, and the statue is made of copper. Now at the top we have our torch, which is also made of copper, but it's covered with gold to keep it from turning green and to reflect light better. Alright, so I'm going to give you some background information on the Statue of Liberty, specifically the history and the construction of it. Okay, so you can follow along as I read out loud. The Statue of Liberty was a gift from the French to the United States. The French and American people worked together to build the statue. The French paid for and built the statue, and Americans paid for and built the base. The statue was supposed to celebrate the 100th anniversary since the founding of the country. The builders hoped the statue would be finished by 1876, but it was not decided until 1886. The statue was meant to inspire French with the American achievements of liberty and democracy. It was conceived by a French politician, Edouard de la Boulaye, in 1871. He was impressed by President Abraham Lincoln's fight to end slavery and believed the end of slavery could inspire the French people and people around the world. The broken shackles at her feet represent freedom from slavery and other types of oppression. The African American community did not recognize the Statue of Liberty as representing their situation because they still did not have the same rights as white Americans when the statue was presented to the United States. Sited at Bellows Island, now called Liberty Island, a prominent location in New York Harbor. Now for the construction of the Statue of Liberty. Frederick August Bartholdi designed the statue. It was built in France and presented to the United States on July 4th, 1884. Gustave Eiffel designed or engineered the interior steel spine of the Statue of Liberty. He also designed the Eiffel Tower. It was then covered in sheets of copper thinner than 2 pennies. They were hammered into shape one by one. It took many, many workers, 9 years, working 10-hour days to build the statue. After the presentation to the United States, it was disassembled and all 350 pieces were packed into crates and brought overseas on ships. Okay, so that's how it was transported from France to the United States. It had to be disassembled. That means it was broken apart into 350 pieces and then brought overseas on a ship or on many ships. Over time, the copper oxidized, which means that because it was exposed to oxygen, it started to change color. Some people wanted to keep the original copper color, but the government decided to leave the patina, greenish color caused by time and exposure to the elements. The statue was the tallest structure in the United States when it was built. The arm holding the torch is 46 feet, the index finger 8 feet, the nose nearly 5 feet, and the sandals are 25 feet long. To get to the top, you have to walk up 354 steps. There are 25 windows in the crown. Okay, so that's some information for you about the Statue of Liberty. What I want you to do is I want you to write down one new fact that you notice about the Statue of Liberty after watching today's video. So that can come from the information that I read out loud to you or the graphic of the different parts of the Statue of Liberty. Up to you. All right, so here is your next part of your classwork for today, which is a timeline. Unfortunately, if we were in school, I would make you do a timeline similar to what we did in Starry Messenger for Galileo. And so a timeline is usually horizontal, not vertical, but because this is the best we can do, I just made it into a chart so that you can jot down the events that happened on the Google Doc, okay? So you see here that I already have the when part filled out. And so this is to help guide you through as you listen or reread the text so that you can look for key words or key dates so that you know what event happened during that time. And I'm going to model for you the first 3 so that you know what to do. Okay? So again, I'm doing this because we are not in school, and so it's difficult because not everyone has long white paper or scratch paper to make this timeline. So we are going to do this instead. Okay. And I just want to emphasize again that the point of creating timelines is to help us see events happening in order, right? We know that history takes place from one day all the way to now, like the past to the present, right? And so we're starting, or this book is also in sequential order or in sequence. And so we know that it starts off with thousands and thousands of years ago all the way to now, right? And so it's important for us to understand the history of our country from a long, long time ago to now. Okay? All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reread pages 1 through 6 of Coming to America and show you exactly how to fill out this when and what timeline chart from your classwork. And I'm going to model it for you. Okay? All right, so Coming to America, The Story of Immigration by Betsy Maestro. America is a nation of immigrants. Immigrants are people who come to a new land to make their home. All Americans are related to immigrants or are immigrants themselves. So, do you see anywhere on this page where we know an event that happened? No, not specifically. So let's move on. Thousands and thousands of years ago. All right, so we see the word years here, and the first line of your classwork does say thousands and thousands of years ago. So now we need to figure out what happened thousands and thousands of years ago. It says there were no people at all in the Americas. Then, here we see another linking word that tells us time or sequence. Then, during the last great ice age, nomads crossed over a land bridge from Asia to what is now Alaska. These early hunters wandered here more or less by accident, searching for food. Okay, so here we see that thousands and thousands of years ago, there were no people in the Americas. But then, after nomads crossed over a land bridge, right, we see that here. That's the second line in our classwork. Now we're going to figure out what happened. So these early hunters wandered here more or less. The American Indians, called Native Americans, are distant relatives of the ancient hunters who arrived in North America so very long ago. They were the first immigrants to arrive in what was truly a new world. So we know that after the nomads crossed the land bridge, that they became the first immigrants to arrive in North America in what was truly a new world. Okay, so I will show you that in a moment, what that will look like. All right, moving on. As many more thousands of years passed, the descendants of the first hunters moved around North and South America. They settled in small villages and later built big cities. By the time Christopher Columbus discovered America in 1492, millions of people lived in the great civilizations of the Americas. So here we see a date, 1492, and if you look on your classwork, you'll see 1492 is there as well. And so we see that millions of people lived in the great civilizations of the Americas during 1492. Although in history, we know, or in American history at least, that Christopher Columbus discovered America. Did he discover America? No, because there were already millions of people living there. He is just the European explorer who was paid to come to America, and so we have that in history. All right, so we know here, thousands and thousands of years ago, that nomads crossed a land bridge which led them to North America. So after the nomads crossed the land bridge, right, they became the first immigrants to arrive in North and South America. And in 1492, millions of people were living in America and Christopher Columbus arrives. Okay, just to clarify, not discovering America, but he arrives in America, which is important to history because it changes the dynamic and what happens to the people who are already living there. Okay, and we can talk more about that some other time. But today's point is to fill out this timeline from this text. Okay? All right, and here's your exit ticket for today. It is your question set. So you are going to reread pages 3 through 6. I have attached the images, pages 3 through 6, on the quiz form. And you are going to be answering 4 questions. Okay, so it's out of 4 points. So if you want, you can refer back to the Read Aloud YouTube link. It's in my channel. So that's just separate from the lesson video. It is just a video of the read aloud of this text. So I'm trying something new so that you don't have to refer back to lesson videos and kind of go through the video to see where the read aloud is, but just a YouTube link just of the read aloud if you want to just reread the text again. Okay? All right, so I'm going to read you the questions and the answer choices, but what I did also want you to note is that there is a vocabulary or text box. Usually in your question sets, you'll know that there's a little box that says or bolded words of important words, just like on the state test. They'll include the text feature of a box to tell you what certain words mean. So here I wanted to note that descendants are those who are related to people who lived in the past, and civilizations means organized, developed societies or groups of people. Okay, so number 1 says, this item has 2 parts, answer part A, then answer part B. Read the sentence from the passage. Then, during the last great ice age, nomads crossed over a land bridge from Asia to what is now Alaska. Part A, nomads are people who A, live in very cold places, B, farm new lands, C, move from place to place, or D, live in large cities. So again, you need to reread the pages to see any context clues around the word nomads to see what you think nomads are, or what kind of people nomads are. Okay. Then part B is, which detail is a clue to the meaning of nomads? So what specific clue in the text helped you understand what nomads means? A, no people at all in the Americas. B, during the last great ice age. C, a land bridge from Asia to what is now Alaska. D, wandered here more or less by accident, searching for food. Number 2, why did the nomads cross the land bridge? A, to move to cities. B, to explore South America. C, to hunt animals for food. Or D, to find materials to build villages. And the last question is, what is the main idea of the passage? I hope you remember what main idea is. What the text is? Mostly about. I hope you finish that sentence for me, okay? So A is, a land bridge connected Asia to Alaska. B, America is made up of people from other places. C, immigrants are people who moved to a new land. Or D, Christopher Columbus sailed to America in 1492. All right, good luck, and that is it for today's lesson.